name is Allison, Allison. Last name Leduc, Leduc.
And are you employed with the Atlanta Police Department?
Yes.
And how long have you been with the Atlanta Police Department?
About 13 years.
And what is your current rank?
Lieutenant.
What unit do you serve as lieutenant over?
Open Records Unit.
And how long have you been a lieutenant with the Open Records Unit?
Since May, so a couple months, 4 months.
Okay. If you can briefly tell the jury about your service with the Atlanta Police Department.
Yes, when I came out of the academy, I was an officer and I worked in Zone 3, which is southeast, a little bit of southwest Atlanta. I was on the street for about 4 years. I then worked in the burglary unit in Zone 3 in the same area. After that, I made investigator, worked in Zone 3, and then I moved to Special Victims Unit, worked there for about 1.5 years, made sergeant, worked in Zone 2, which is the Buckhead area. While I was a sergeant, I also went back to Special Victims Unit for about 2 years, and then I made lieutenant December 2022, worked in Zone 2 again, and then I just got moved to Open Records Unit in May of this year.
Now I want to focus your time as when you worked in the Zone 3 area. First, as a patrol officer. As a patrol officer, did some of your job duties include responding to 911 calls?
Yes.
Traffic enforcement?
Yes.
Writing police reports?
Yes.
And doing directed patrols?
Yes.
Is there anything else that you did while you were a patrol officer within Zone 3?
I also worked crime suppression unit as well, which is a proactive unit.
And I know you spent some time in Zone 3. How long were you first a patrol officer in Zone 3?
Until technically I made investigator 2017. So I was an officer up until 2017, but I worked the street until the end of 2015.
And from 2015 to 2017, what did you do?
Burglary and crime suppression unit.
Now, when you were a patrol officer in Zone 3, what shift did you work?
Evening watch.
And what was the evening watch time frame?
2 to 10 or 3 to 11 is the shift hours.
And did you work that shift the entire time you were a patrol officer with Zone 3?
Yes.
As a patrol officer, did you have a specific beat that you worked?
Initially, no, but I was assigned a beat probably about 1.5 years out in the zone. And that was 304's beat, which would be Zone 3 for the 3, and 4 is the beat area.
And how long did you work that 304 beat?
Probably about 2 years.
If you can briefly describe for the jury what areas encompassed in that 304 beat.
Yes. So you're looking at the southeast side, old Turner Field area, which is now GSU Stadium, goes down to University Avenue. So that area, Summerhill area, Haygood, Hank Aaron area.
You're on permission to approach?
Yeah.
And I've given to defense counsel a PowerPoint that includes the next upcoming exhibit, Your Honor. So I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 86GG. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 86GG?
Yes.
And how do you recognize 86GG?
That was the main area of 304's beat.
Okay. And is that a map containing that area of 304's beat?
Yes.
And does that fairly accurately depict 304 beat and possibly some other beats within Zone 3?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time the state would like to admit State's Exhibit 86GG into evidence as a demonstrative.
All right, that's fine.
Permission to publish.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Your Honor, may we borrow that stick again, please?
Yeah.
And permission for Lieutenant Leduc to step down.
She may.
Lieutenant Leduc, if you could just indicate with the stick that area that you said was the 304 beat when you were working the zone back in 2014, 2015.
Yes. So pretty much all encompassing up to the north side of Atlanta Avenue, down Hill Street, anything to the, what's that, north, south, east side of Hill Street would be Zone 6, and part of this area down here would be 305 speed.
And I'm going to ask you about some other streets within the 304 beat. You talked about, I believe, did you say Haygood?
Yes.
Atlanta Avenue, so that would be a part of 304's beat?
Yes.
And Van Ira, that's also part of 304 beat.
Yes.
And then Farrington, that's also part of 304.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Now, as a patrol officer within 304, or even when you did investigations in 304, were you aware of any gang activity in the 304 beat?
Yes.
And how did you become aware of gang activity in the 304 beat?
Just sharing throughout the department from our gangs investigators. If they ever came to roll calls, they would share information, but also just from interacting with citizens that lived in that area.
Okay. And was there any particular gang that operated in that 304 beat?
Yes, I recall ABG, Atlanta Blood Gang.
Were there any others?
In that area, specifically for 304, that's the only one that I recall occupying that space.
And are you familiar with a location at 12 Atlanta Avenue?
Yes.
How are you familiar with that location?
It's a convenience store.
Right. And was there any known gang activity that would occur around that particular location?
We would respond to criminal trespasses there. There would be a lot of people that would hang out around the store that would be affiliated with that gang.
You said would be affiliated with that gang? Okay. And was that during the duration of your time in Zone 3?
Yes.
Now, I want to transition to your time in Zone 3 and responding to a call. As a responding officer to a call, specifically a shooting, what are your responsibilities when you arrive on the scene?
Arriving on scene, you're going to try to make the scene safe for yourself and anybody else that's there. Check for victims, make sure the scene is secure so that way you're preserving any evidence there. And walking through the crime scene, find out what evidence you have there, making sure you speak to any witnesses that are at the location as well.
Okay, and you said something about trying to make the scene safe. What does that mean?
Well, one, making sure there's no longer a threat at the scene, but securing the scene so that way you have your crime scene located in one area where nobody can cross into that area.
And how do you secure a crime scene?
You can set up crime tape, you can position patrol vehicles, have officers set up wherever the tape is or the vehicles are.
And as a patrol officer, do you sometimes serve as a lead investigator, for lack of a better term, when you respond to shootings?
Yes, sir. Primary officer.
And when you become the primary officer on the scene, what are some of your job duties and responsibilities?
Speak to the victims, speak to witnesses. You will be also doing the report as well, directing the person that responds from our ID unit who does our crime scene processing, directing them as to where evidence is, what they need to process on scene.
I want to direct your attention to January 26, 2015. Did you have the occasion to respond to 1007 Hill Street in Atlanta, Georgia?
Yes.
And is that in Fulton County?
Yes.
And as a part of your preparation, have I asked you to look at what day of the week that was?
Yes.
And what day of the week was that?
Monday.
And when you responded, did you respond to a house, an apartment, or something else?
It was like a townhouse or a duplex, so there was an A and a B unit at that location.
And initially, which duplex letter or number did you respond to?
A.
And let me ask, do you recall it being a letter or a number?
I thought I recalled it being a letter.
Would you have written where you responded to in a police report?
Yes, I would have.
Would looking at a copy of your police report help refresh your memory?
Yeah, I would have.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as identification purposes, and this is her police report as States Exhibit 87GG. And once your memory is, if that refreshes your memory, just look up and let me know without reading it.
So I will say apartment 1 in the narrative, A, and the initial address at the top.
Okay. But it was either apartment 1 or apartment A.
Yes.
All right. And again, would that have been a 304's beat?
Yes.
Why did you respond to that location?
That was my beat. So I believe initially a supervisor was in the area and heard shots fired, and then we received multiple calls for shots fired as well as a person shot at the location.
And do you recall about what time you responded to the location?
I believe it was about 9:30 p.m.
And when you arrived, I know you just said that there was a sergeant who heard shots fired. Did other officers respond with you initially?
Yes.
Do you know about how many other officers responded with you?
I don't recall how many.
Once you arrived, tell the jury what you recall happening.
When we arrived to the scene, it was myself and other officers as well as a sergeant. Initially, a male answered the door, let us inside, so we were checking the house. When we went up the stairs, we found a male at the top of the stairs who advised he had been shot to his right calf, and there is a female as well that was located, she advised, in the bedroom upstairs, but closest to the front of the house, that had been shot in the right calf as well. They both advised that they had been laying in bed together. There was also 2 other females, I believe, that were located in a room in the rear upstairs of the house as well. We also located multiple shell casings in the street.
So we're going to go back over some of that just slightly. So when you opened the door, a male answered the door.
Yes.
Do you recall the name of that individual?
Can I check my report?
Well, looking at a copy of your report, help refresh your memory?
Yes.
Yes.
A Mr. Marcus Battle.
And without telling me his full date of birth, what year was he born?
89.
Right. And when he opened the door, did he advise where he was in the house at the time of the shooting?
He advised he was located in a rear room at the top of the stairs.
Do you recall sitting here today how many bedrooms were in that home?
I don't recall exactly how many.
Now, once you interact with Mr. Battle, what did you do next?
That was when we made contact with a Mr. Hunter Elston, who was at the top of the stairs.
And without giving me his full date of birth, what year was Mr. Elston born?
63.
And I think you said that you were able to speak with him.
Yes.
All right. And when you first saw him, he was shot.
Yeah, he advised he had been shot to the right calf.
Did you see any injury to him?
I most likely did. I don't recall exactly.
Right. At this moment, do you remember any?
My apologies. Let me turn it off now.
Go ahead.
At It always happens like that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And let me ask you this, Ms. Ledoux, before we finish. What is the incident number for this incident?
It is 150262672.
And again, this was on January 26th
Yes.
of 2015.
Yes.
All right. Once, at this point, do you recall, and when I say at this point, today, do you remember anything about his demeanor, Mr. Elston, when you went to that house?
I don't recall.
Now, once you spoke with Mr. Elston, what did you do next?
At that point, I believe we made contact with the female who advised that she had a gunshot wound to her right calf, and that was Miss Frida Reed.
And what was her date of birth?
1965.
And where was Miss Reed when you first made contact with her?
I don't recall exactly where she was when I first made contact with her.
Was she in the bedroom?
I don't recall.
Do you recall putting your report where you first interacted with her?
Not specifically says where I first interacted with her, but they both advised that they had been lying in bed in the front bedroom upstairs.
Now, you also said that you saw two other females in the home.
Yes.
What was their name and then year of birth?
Raven Davis, 1991, and Liberty Bennett, 2013.
So Liberty would have been about 2 years old.
About 2 years old, yeah.
Now, once you spoke with Mr. Elston and did you speak with Raven?
I don't recall speaking to her specifically.
And you saw Miss Bennett inside of the home, Miss Reed inside of the home, correct? Free to read.
Yes, when I first made contact with her, it would have been inside the home.
Okay. Once you spoke with Miss Reed, what, if anything, happens next?
After speaking to her and getting statements, we most likely started processing the crime scene at that point, seeing where there was damages inside of the house, any shell casings, ensuring that they received medical attention as well, checking for any witnesses that might have seen, heard anything that had just occurred.
And you talked about getting medical services. Did Grady arrive on scene?
Yes, Grady and fire responded to the scene.
And was Mr. Elston and Miss Reed transported to the hospital?
Yes, they were.
Now, you also said that you were able to speak with witnesses on the scene.
Yes.
How many witnesses did you speak with?
I spoke with a female who lived across the street from the location.
And what time did you arrive?
About 9:30.
Okay. And do you recall in minutes approximately how long after you may have arrived on scene did you interact with this witness who lived across the street?
I don't recall the exact amount of time it would have taken to actually interact with her, but after speaking with the victims, going through crime scene and actually speaking to her, it could have been about 20, 25 minutes.
Let me ask, would a CAD report contain any information regarding any witnesses that you may have spoken to on the scene?
Possibly.
Possibly. Will looking at a copy of the CAD report from this incident maybe help you refresh your memory as to timing of when you may have spoken to her? You're on permission to approach? I'm going to show you what the marked for identification purposes as 88 GG. Just take a look at that CAD report. It helps refresh your memory as to any information with that witness in there to help ascertain what time you may have spoken to her.
So between about 9:54 and about 10 p.m., I see the names and date of births of the victims and the witness information in here. So that could have been possibly when we were checking their information on the computer in the patrol vehicle at that time. So that would have put a time frame in about speaking to her, getting her information, sitting down in the car would have been about 20 to 30 minutes.
And you arrived at about 9:30.
Right.
Would you have gotten her information to run before or after you spoke to her?
Most likely talking to her, I would have gotten her name, date of birth, asked if she had identification. And then after speaking to her, I typically would have went back to my vehicle and ran her information on the computer.
And approximately what time did you run her information?
From this CAD report, with all their info in like this, it looks like about 10 p.m.
And in speaking with this witness, was she able to provide you any information about that night?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
You're right.
Yes.
State's response would be a present sense impression, given that she spoke with her within 20 minutes or so of the police arriving on scene.
That's not how I understood the testimony, and I don't believe the foundation has been laid.
Why don't you see if you can lay a foundation for that?
Okay, so did you, based on your report, speak with this witness?
Based on my report, yes.
And given that you ran her information at about 10 o'clock, would you have spoken to her before 10 o'clock? Would you have spoken to her before 10 o'clock?
Most likely, yes.
Okay. And you arrived on the scene about 9:35?
Yes.
All right. So within 25 minutes, is it fair to say you would have spoken with this witness?
Yes.
Okay. And is that typical that you would speak with the victims first and then go out and canvass the area to speak to witnesses to see if they've observed anything?
Yes.
And would that be the protocol, what you would have done on this day back in January 26, 2015?
Yes.
Today, do you remember what her being the witness, what her body language was or her demeanor was?
I don't recall.
Okay. But was she able to provide you information of what she saw and heard on the nights when you all responded?
Yes, she advised.
Don't tell me yet.
Oh, sorry.
Was she able to provide you information about what she heard and what she saw that night?
Yes.
And was that within 20 minutes of you responding to a shots fired call?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time the state.
There's been conflicting testimony now, and we're leading and saying 20 minutes, and that's not, I don't understand that to be the testimony. And furthermore, the question is that I don't think we've gotten an answer to is, yes, there was an initial interaction, but that doesn't answer the question of when the interview, or whatever we want to call it, takes place.
Your Honor,
So I'd also object on the grounds of confrontation clause.
Your Honor, I believe the testimony is I would have spoken to her prior to 10 o'clock, which is when she put the information in the system, and she arrived at 9:30, approximately 9:30. So between 9:30 and 10 o'clock is roughly 30 minutes, and she would have spoken to her before 10 o'clock.
Well.
So again, I don't know why we keep talking about 20 minutes.
She initially said she spoke with her
But
between
let's
20 and.
hear that from the witness.
Okay. About how long do you think you were on scene before you met with or spoke with the witness on the scene?
With giving a timeline of how that incident was and how we would typically speak to victims and how we would typically look at evidence and make sure everybody gets medical attention, I would say on that scene, it could have been about 20 to 25 minutes.
I'm gonna sustain the objection.
Okay. Was she able to provide you without saying what she said, was she able to provide you information regarding the incident?
Yes.
Okay. After you spoke with the witness, what, if anything, did you do next?
After speaking with the witness, then it would have come down to processing the crime scene at that point and locating damages or directing ID whenever they arrived on scene to where shell casings were or damages were at that point.
And do you recall who the crime scene tech was that you had come out to that scene?
From my report, it was ID Unit 7320 Sanders.
And had you had an opportunity to look at some of the pictures that were taken back on January 26, 2015?
Yes.
And in looking at those pictures, did that fairly accurately depict the scene as you recall it from January 26, 2015?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach?
Nay.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 1GG through 28GG. Have you had the opportunity to look at those specific pictures prior to entering court today?
Yes.
And Your Honor, this time the state would like to tender Exhibit 1GG to 28GG into evidence.
Did you say 20 or 28?
28.
All right, they're admitted.
Permission to publish.
You may.
Looking at State's Exhibit 1 GG, what are we looking at State's Exhibit 1 GG?
The incident location, the residence that it occurred at.
And do you recall if it was the left or the right home?
Looking at the picture, left side.
Okay. And going to 2 GG. Now, you said to the left, is that the one where it appears that the door is open beyond the burglar door, the other door is open?
Yes.
Okay. And looking to the other door, which is closed, do you see anything that you would determine as defects on the door that's to the right?
Yeah, from looking at the picture, yes.
Okay. But that is not the house that you responded to, the one on the right.
That's correct.
Okay. Looking at 3 GG, if you can describe for the jurors, what are we looking at in 3 GG?
Staircase inside of the residence.
Okay. And is this a staircase in which you saw Mr. Elston?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Looking at 4 GG, what is depicted in 4 GG?
Defects on the wall and the staircase.
And when you say defects, what do you mean?
From being struck by bullets.
Looking at 5 GG, is that just a close-up of those same defects?
I believe so.
All right. 6 GG, are these additional defects found within the home?
Yes.
All right. And 7 GG, are these additional defects found inside of the home?
Yes.
And will all these be consistent with defects that come from gunfire?
Yes.
All right. Looking at 8 GG, is that just a close-up of what we just looked at?
Yes.
All right. 9 GG. And in 9 GG, is that also a defect at the top portion of that picture?
Yes.
And I don't think you can see it here, so if you can stand up and just indicate with the pointer where that defect is on that picture.
Right there.
All right. You may have to stand, so.
Okay.
Looking at 10 GG, if you can identify for the jury the defect that is
Right here.
here as well. All right. 11 GG, is that just the floor inside of the home?
Yes.
All right. 12 GG, what is depicted inside 12 GG?
I recall that being the front bedroom upstairs.
And looking at 12 GG, do you see the window in 12 GG?
Yes.
Do you see any distortion of the blinds looking at 12 GG?
Yes.
Okay, if you can just point that out for the jury.
Here and up here.
All right. Looking at 13 GG. Within 13 GG, do you see any defects in the wall near that window that you just identified?
Yes.
If you can just point to the jury, and if we can zoom in where those defects are. Scroll down.
So we're looking right here and over here.
Okay. And you said over, hold on.
So possibly some up here.
I can do this.
I know.
I got it. All right, is this one? Oh, sorry, tell me where to point.
Yes, that appears to be one up there.
Okay, any others?
Yeah, and possibly over there to your right side.
Here?
Yes.
Okay. We can go to the next, is that 15 GG? Or 14 GG? Do we see any defects here?
Yes.
And where is it?
Ceiling above the fan.
Is that right here?
Yes.
All right, now 15 GG? Do we see any additional defects?
Yes, I think that's just a close-up of the one we previously, yes.
All right. 16 GG? Now what's being depicted in 16 GG?
Where one of the victims was lying in bed.
And 17 GG? Is that a close up of that same area?
Yes.
Are you able to tell the jury what this reddish brown stain could be inside of this picture?
Yes, possibly blood.
All right. Looking at 18 GG, any defects within 18 GG?
Yes.
Where would that defect be?
To the right of the picture frames, bottom, above that, top right, above the picture frames in the middle, and then possibly some to your right above this mirror.
All right. Looking at 19 GG, Is that just a close-up of the one we just identified?
Yes, close up.
20 GG? Are those just close-up of the other ones we just identified?
Yes.
21 GG? Is that just, do we see any defects within 21 GG?
Possibly right there, but that looks like some kind of close up.
Okay.
Not 100%.
All right. 22 GG? What are we looking at 22 GG?
Bathroom.
And in 23 GG? Do we see any defects within 23 GG?
Yes, above the clock.
So right here?
Yes.
Next, 24 GG? That's just a close-up?
Close up. Yes.
All right. 25? Do we see any defects?
Yes, in the mirror.
Is that right here?
Yes.
And then 26 GG? Close-up.
Close up.
All right. 27 GG? Would those be considered defects as well?
Yes.
And 28 GG? Same?
Yes.
29, and I believe that's it. Thank you. And will all those defects be consistent with defects that come from gunfire?
Yes.
From the bedroom, where was the bedroom in relation to outside? Was it the front bedroom, the back bedroom, or something else?
It was the front bedroom.
And so would that be the bedroom that be facing the street?
Yes.
Once you had investigator Sanders process the scene, what, if anything, would you do next?
After probably while she was processing, or I can't recall if Sanders is male or female, I apologize. While processing, I would most likely walk them through the scene to advise what needs to be collected, what's evidence, what's not. Walk them through, also fill out, they have paperwork that we have to fill out as well. And that's what I'd be doing while they'd be processing.
Now, all the individuals who resided or who was at the home that day, do you know they lived at that location?
I can't recall if they definitely lived there, but they were there that night.
Were you able to get phone numbers and addresses for those individuals?
Can I check my report?
Yes.
Yes. Would you like me to go through?
No,
No.
but were you able to get that for each of those individuals?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And outside of the home having defects, were there any other defects to anything outside of the house?
Yes.
Okay. What else was damaged?
There was a vehicle that was in the driveway, I believe, that had damage.
What kind of vehicle was it?
From my report, a blue Chevrolet Lumina.
When you arrived on the scene, did you see anyone shooting by the time you got on the scene?
I did not.
Do you know how soon after you arrived to a scene that the incident number would be generated?
It would already be generated upon us getting the call.
On that evening, do you know if you responded to any other scenes that, well, you're responding officer, so you would have. Do you recall responding to an incident 150260124 at all that evening? The location? Did you ever have to respond to I-7585 at University that evening or that morning?
I don't recall. I wouldn't have responded in the morning because I worked evenings.
Did you ever have to, if you can recall, respond to Stanhope Drive? on January 26, 2015?
I don't recall.
And again, this shooting was at 9:30 in the evening, correct?
Yes.
All right. Course indulgence for one moment. For confirmation, your report number was 15020262672.
Yes.
Is that fair? When in relation to your incident that you responded to, would incident number 150260124 occur
That would have been earlier in the day.
earlier in the day?
Yes.
When in relation to your incident, would 150262801 occur?
That would have been after.
After. All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Any defense questions for this witness?
Thank you. On behalf of Mr. Williams, we have no questions.
No questions on behalf of Mr. Stillwell.
All right. Okay, thank you for your time. You're excused